Hello, welcome back to my channel. My name is Chaz Kayato, and the topic of today's discussion is a new teacher PSA. I think I did one of these last year. So as I've mentioned before, I am an instructional coach for new teachers in the state of Louisiana. So I've been doing that for 2 years now. And so I've been able to interact with a lot of new teachers in the state. So I have a good idea of the mindsets that new teachers have. And then also I have a good idea of some of the, some of the ways that these new teachers are approaching the profession. So I just wanted to go over some statistics. I wanted to go over some things for new teachers to consider. But this isn't necessarily just a video for new teachers. Old teachers can take a lot away from this video as well. But first, new teachers, I do want to point out, consider and reflect on how you present yourself and the things that you do compared to the things that you want your students to do. One of the things that I've found to be very frustrating is, through the courses that I'm an instructional coach for, I'll have many teachers that are habitually behind on work that needs to be turned in. They don't check their emails all the time. They don't respond to different messages that I send them. They won't attend they won't attend to the meetings that we'll have. And so, I just think to myself, well, I can only imagine if a teacher who can't do that, how can you ask a student to do any of those things if you're not willing to do them yourselves? So please, new teachers, think about how you present yourself and what you are asking of the students. And this also is how you run your classroom too, right? I mean, for me personally, and I have older students. Most of them are 17, 18 years old. And so for them, I'm going to treat them more like an adult in terms of my expectations, because they're about to go to college or they're about to go to a real job. And so I want them to know that what you do has consequences, right? So I'm not going to come behind you and I'm not going to micromanage you, and I'm not going to make sure that you did every single note or every single part of your assignment. If you don't do it, then you just suffer the consequences in terms of your grade, right? And so now I'm not saying that every teacher should be like that. Once again, my students are older. And so that probably is not going to be a great strategy for younger students. But still, that is the way I do things with my older students. And but I also run my classroom like that too. It's a very relaxed atmosphere. The students know that if they have questions, they don't have to be afraid to ask me. They can ask me the questions. They can always find me. Just think about how you present yourself to the students, because if I presented myself as a relaxed teacher, that where if it's just not as structured, but then all of a sudden I come in, I'm like, well, no, I need this, it'll be confusing for the students. So just think about how you present yourself, right? And be willing to focus on student needs, and not just the curriculum. So this is really important too, because we get so caught up in I've got to hit X, Y, and Z in my curriculum, but the students get behind and they never ever catch up because of the fact that sometimes you just have different needs. Every classroom, every class has a different student makeup. Year over year, you could have stronger and weaker grades. And so you just need to consider what are the needs of the students at the time, and be willing to figure out, be a problem solver, and figure out how do I get these kids to get the most out of this class, not necessarily check every single box, because checking boxes, and I know we really get wrapped up in, oh, the students scored this, but remember, students aren't a score. Okay, they're not a score. They're people. And so when we just reduce them to a score, it really doesn't benefit them, right? We do need to consider their needs as individuals, and then even the collective as a group. Okay, so just some statistics for job prospects in the future. So the UN reported that globally there will be a shortage of 44 million teachers by the year 2030. So that's only now 6 years away. This report was from last year. So 44 million teachers that we're going to be short of. And I know that there are some international teachers that watch these videos, and I know that through taking my courses through ACE, there are teachers that go to college at ACE that are from around the world. So I do know that this is something to consider. What is the world going to do about this global shortage of teachers? And on top of that, in the U.S., the National Center for Education Statistics reports that the U.S. is going to have about 200,000 less teachers in 2030 than there were just this past year. So in the future, even the U.S. is going to have a steady decline in teachers. There's a lot of turnover of new teachers, and part of this can burn out in terms of the workload. There's a lot of paperwork that you have to do, a lot of checking boxes that you have to do as a teacher, and then you also have to deal with sometimes parents aren't always on the same page with what you do in your classroom, and so this is a reason that sometimes teachers are not willing to do not willing to stick it out long term in this career. There's high stress. I know especially the younger grades, those are the grades that you see the most turnover, because it's very stressful, the amount of work you have to do, especially with younger students that are really, really early in the developmental stages. And then, pay is often cited as a reason teachers leave. And honestly, depending on where you teach at, you may actually make a pretty decent wage teaching. But the question is, does the wage that you make, does it justify the stress level and the workload that you have compared to something else that you may be doing that might be less stressful, have less workload for similar pay, or even a slightly less pay. But something I do want to point out is if you can manage that, and we've talked about stress management in other videos, this is actually a career path that I actually think does have a lot of future proofing. And what I'm saying by that is, we're very concerned about the direction that technology, so I'm not just going to say AI, because technology in general, even without AI, is kind of at a point where it's improving very, very quickly. And this has never been an issue in the history of the world where technology is improving at a pace so fast that maybe we don't have time to react to these changes in technologies. It used to be the case where in previous technological revolutions, if your career, if there was no future, so let's say with the invention of the car, we didn't need really many people involved in putting horseshoes on a horse, right? But there was enough time to where, okay, well, I can go pick up another another career, and things weren't moving that quickly, even though compared to the rest of history they were. But now, with how technology is, you may have a career path that you think you're going to do when you're in college, and then you get out into the real world, you get that job, and the career path has drastically changed due to increases in technology. Well, let's say you go to another field, it could be the case that that other field has also been drastically changed in that short amount of time. And so we're kind of in this weird position where we know that there's going to be a lot of changes. Maybe those changes are happening slower than projected, but they're still coming pretty quick. And what's going to happen? Well, the one thing that really has me I'm not gonna say excited, but at least feeling good about the future for teachers is that, one of the things I'll tell students is, well, you can't drop a kid off at a computer, right? So, especially depending on what their age, you need someone to watch the child during that educational process. And you can't just drop a kid off at an iPad and then go to work, right? You still have to drop them off to an actual physical teacher. And so I think this is going to keep jobs in education, physical jobs in education, at a premium for a little while maybe some of these other jobs that are being replaced by technology, maybe those people really don't have a place to go just yet because they don't know what else is going to be replaced by technology. But just consider that, I think, at least for the near future, we'll have a lot of benefit just from being the type of job that really requires a physical presence. And so just, consider that if you can stick it out. I think that teaching is going to become, in the near future, a career path that isn't as looked down upon. And I don't mean that teachers are looked down upon, but I just mean when you talk to the average person, it just always seems like when you talk about teachers, the average person has at least one or two negative things to say about the teaching profession. Now, that doesn't mean to say that they think teachers are bad, but they may just, like the things that I've talked about, the burnout, high turnover rate pay, maybe those things, maybe there's a chance in the future for some of those things to start to change, because it may be a higher sought after career path. So, okay, well, that's this topic today of the new Teacher PSA. Thank you guys for watching. If you have any comments, please put those down below. Thank you.